عليكم السلام.
Oh. Nickname on your fans at the moment. So I'm going to modify it to say I am the Cumberbatch. Okay, yes. The Cumberbatch. Who's the Cumberbatch? Okay, let's start from the beginning. Both your parents were actors. Oh, that beginning, the real beginning. The biological beginning. Okay. They encouraged you to be an actor, or quite the opposite, because that often happens? Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. I mean, you know, they had. Mum in particular, more commercially successful, but both of them very successful careers, as in they worked as actors and they had work. Sometimes there was a little bit of famine as well as sometimes feast, you know, there was that variety. There were interrupted holidays, there was the peripatetic nature of their work, there were issues over childcare. You know, I felt the bumps and lumps of a career that doesn't have a 9-to-5 structure, that's based on an art form that's sporadic, that's demanding, and doesn't necessarily put your family's needs first all the time. So they wanted anything but that for me. And also they afforded me an education whereby I could have done anything but that. So I took that education and threw it in their face by becoming an actor. No, I mean, you know, there came a point where I think it was just, they really wanted the best of me, like the best parents do. And you know, it started with a home that was just full of love, full of devotion and care. And that was my first blessing. You know, it was a middle-class household, there were books, there was music, I was constantly surrounded by artists and actors and musicians and writers and really interesting people. And I went to extraordinary schools, and again, surrounded by history and culture and tradition. And I didn't feel the societal pressure, well, I did a little bit at school, there was no conformity at schools I went to, you know, the English public school system's pretty rigid, or what certainly was then. I'm an only child, so I'm always looking for families. And I thought, you know what, I worked very hard for a while to be a lawyer. I mean, that was kind of a sort of mid-teens ambition, because you get to perform as a criminal barrister, that's what I was interested in. But really only because I like Rumhole of the Bailey, which some of you may know, wonderful fictional stories by John Mortimer, which I ended up as an actor getting to read on radio, ironically. So, you know, it came about in a different way. And I kept meeting people going, turn back now before it's too late. This is a peripatetic career. I thought, oh, that sounds familiar. It's feast or famine. Oh, that sounds familiar. And you're only as good as your last case. And I thought, this sounds like being an actor. I know I'm better at that, I'm more suited to that, and that's my primary passion. So I put those very lofty ambitions to be a lawyer aside. And yeah, I really focus on my work at school, but really focus on being an actor. And I did promise my parents one thing, no matter what, I'd get a further education and go to university. They were shocked after that I wanted to go to drama school. They were like, get on with it. You know, you're broke, you need money, and you're good, just get to work. But it was just before that, a proper job, well, yeah, but by then they knew it was anything but a proper job. But it was a performance of and that for a father to say to the son is enormous, and gave me confidence. You know, they're very much at the front and centre, I guess part of my job, being an only child, to honour the love and the effort that they put into my upbringing as a respectful attitude towards my parents' gratitude, but it's also a sort of psychological drive I think you have to be careful of. You've got to find your own reasons for doing it, so it's evolved, but I will say that it makes me very happy to make them proud, to make them think that all of their trials and tribulations and what they gave me in the process were worthwhile. So it's a huge driver for me. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But with that blessing, you know, that was the beginning.
Your first name was at 12. Did you feel that when you were so young in acting, you were less self-conscious because you were
be nervous, or
No.
you were anyway?
Terrifying. Yeah, you know, but I wasn't professional. I didn't know any professional until I was about 26. So this is all stuff at school where you get, you know, maybe 2 months to rehearse something, and then you have 3 nights to perform it. So every night is nerve. I mean, the first night is the first time you've ever done it in front of an audience. You know, in a professional one, you get at least a week of previews. Sometimes less, but it's rare. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember being paralysed with nerves, but having so much to focus on. It's interesting, actually, that director I worked with, wonderful theatre director, Katie Mitchell, she gives actors a huge number of tasks to focus on. She would give you a note like, my darling, I didn't quite believe you really registered the temperature in that scene. What temperature? Well, the temperature outside. Really? Yes. Much colder than you're playing it. What, the outside temperature to the room I'm in when I'm playing the scene? Yes, so you'd be warmer inside because you come from that in. She gives you these tasks, and I think when you're young and you've got a very limited amount of time to try and, you know, deliver your work in 3 nights, you're focused on so much that after the first evening you don't get so nervous. And I guess when you're young, you don't know any different, you're right. There is a naivety to it, and you're bold in the sense that you're making observational choices, not based on life experience. You're not being cast to type. You know, I was in the realm of hat boxes. I mean, before my voice broke, I was playing old men, but when I went to a grown-up school where there were grown-up, older boy actors who were playing a couple of parts, I was playing Titania in Midsummer Night's Dream, Rosalind in As You Like It, who is a girl at one point playing a boy, playing a girl, playing a boy. That got kind of confusing. And then in the next year, I was playing Willie Loman in Death of the Salesman, who's this guy in his 80s losing his mind. So, you know, it was Hatbox time. I was just bringing things on, accents, ages, all of it. Even gender fluidity and sexuality, all of that stuff was part of kind of the experimental stage of my training, I guess, as a child and a teenager. And I had phenomenal teachers. One, an incredible Elizabethan scholar, so we did a very traditional version of Shakespeare in the round, almost like a globe, and in costumes that had been garnered from the BBC, from real productions, film productions, and in this amazing thing called speech room, which was this sort of rotund wooden building at Harrow, and he was one of the foremost scholars of this generation, Jeremy Lemon, and he taught us by rote. You know, he literally said, you know, it was very much iambic pentameter, and as he said it, it was line reading. But for a 13-year-old, to be able to, after one experience with him, pick up a text of Elizabethan blank verse and be able to read it as if it was modern prose, that's a gift that lasted me a lifetime. And it still lasts me a lifetime. I mean, you know. So it's remarkable. And another teacher who's far more modern and would do the American or Russian plays as modern drama and non-Shakespearean, I guess. And it was a brilliant balance to have in a very formative passage of my life.
Talking about experiences that last a lifetime, you took a 1-year gap to go to Tibet.
Yeah.
Why and how much did it teach you about yourself and about arts?
A lot. Stuff that's still resonating now with hindsight and lived experience. But, you know, I was 19. It wasn't actually Tibet, it was Darjeeling. It was the sort of border of Nepal and Tibet at the time. It's an amazing region of West Bengal in India. And I was teaching in a house, a Nepali house that had been converted into housing for exiled Tibetan monks. And the top floor had become a proud Tibetan monastery. And I was there for 6 months on my own, structuring lessons, creating a classroom environment, stratifying the level of English speaking, which was pretty broad. You know, there was a 40-year-old in the same class as a 12-year-old, and it was difficult dynamics to manage, and I won't profess to have been any good as a teacher. I would not have got far in that profession, heroes as they are. But there was a cultural interchange, I think, which gave them something of value from me, but I felt it was very balanced. I got to watch them in their daily puja, their daily ritual, their daily work. I got to hear them beginning, middle, and end of the day in what they do in the temple. I absorb their art, their personality, their colour, their humour, their resilience, whilst living with them, eating with them, and teaching them. It was an extraordinary experience. And in the book, there's something in my head, so tear states with these clouds rolling in from off the top of the mountains with captions, you know, Everest in view every now and again. I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, mind-blowing for a 19-year-old. I had a very strong calling to do it. We had a wonderful facility at school where people would come and say, look, if you are taking a year between school and university, these are the kind of things you could volunteer to do. First thing I went to, and they were amazing openings, it just really spoke to me. I think something about Buddhism that really awakened something in me. And something about universal spirituality and what it is to connect with something non-material that's universal to all of us. And it's not specific to do with reincarnation, but it's where that ties into Jungian archetypes and stuff of the subconscious and the imagination, to karma, to what it is to try and be a good person, to do unto others as you would have done to you. And just the sheer volume of life wisdom in that tradition. And also meditation, also finding still points to reflect, to just learn again to breathe, how important that is. For somebody who runs around and runs quite a fast rate like I do, that's really important, it keeps me sane. So yeah, I taught for nearly half a year, and then I went on a retreat, having gone into town to learn the academic side of what I was witnessing, to understand the Upanishads and texts and beyond, and the tradition that comes from India, and I morphed into Buddhism, blah, 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 blah. But then to actually have a lived experience, and I was lucky enough to join a group of monks who were being initiated, who were starting their life as monks. And the Lama who was taking us came in, we were in this tiny square concrete room, not much bigger than this, about 14 of us around a U-shape with the other side being an altar with all these butter candles burning beneath deities. And I don't know how many of you know Buddhism, but it's just, you're talking about it being within you. God is without, but also within you, within everybody. And then suddenly it was personified by all these little characters. And while they're in the iconography and the paintings, I thought, what are we doing? Are we worshipping deities? I didn't know that was what this was about. And we were repeating, without knowledge of the understanding of the translation, this Tibetan text again and again, for 2 days solid, with like 3 hours sleep, with very basic meals. And the Lama came in and we just all, there were 3 Westerners who were doing it, me and another teacher from another monastery, and a German tourist. And we obviously looked like we were losing our minds. Yeah, okay, the Westerners need to come with me. We'll go into my prayer hall. We continued for a week in there, and it was extraordinary. And then he taught us meditation techniques, and it literally blew my mind. I mean, and I came out. The overwhelming feeling was connection. The overwhelming feeling was this extraordinary truth of energy that binds everything and everyone on the third rock from the sun, and it was belittling and humbling and magical, and it just opened, completely opened. And then I went to Manchester University, and I didn't have a bit of a secret. But even the gorgeous nature of the Lama, he was like, you've done a great thing in this lifetime, now go and be an adolescent, go and be a 20-year-old, go and have fun. Wisdom, and it comes in all shapes and sizes, and he was permissive. He just knew that this was a huge thing for a 19-year-old to do outside of my culture. So, yeah, but it still remains a very formative experience.
Oh, I can totally understand and feel that. We are on stage, and we take energy from the audience. Show me your energy, guys.
I'm not sending you to sleep. There was some poll in the New York Times that said I've got one of the most effective voices for sleep deprivation. That's not happening here.
Well, I did that because basically when you're on stage, you are able to perform differently every time. It's the only acting medium where your performance is always, different depending on meetings.
that's about what you feel in the room.
Yeah.
And then there is a magic that apparently happens physiologically that we all synchronize heartbeats. Did you know that? As an audience, when you're watching something live, your bodily rhythm literally starts, your heart rhythm starts to syncopate. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Does it mean that the stage is your first love, and how much do you still love it so much?
I do. I'm aching to get back to it. It is time dependent, and yeah, it always will be. There was a stage in my career, very helpful. About 10 years ago, I alternated a lot between screen and stage, and I miss that. I miss what both things teach you as an actor. They're very different muscles, but they do have a conversation. You can have a close-up on stage, you can have a spectacular piece of theatrical expression on a camera, in a camera, and I want that. And that the repetition is something meditative and extraordinary that can happen with that. It's also really hard. It's a brain gym, and once you've got over the fear of delivering this work that you just stayed in private for a really long time in the rehearsal room, you then have to play another game of repeating that repetition every single night. I mean, very lucky the last experience I had turned out to be a good one. I had some bumps along the way, but when I played Hamlet, I got off stage after, 96 performances as Hamlet.
I saw that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Ray. Thank you.
Barbican.
At the Barbican, they're quite a beast of a set and design and staging, but I got off and I thought, oh yeah, no, I've definitely grown. He's evolved, performances evolved through the run, and that's what you aim for. That's how you deal with repetition and trying to play that trick on yourself, but it's new every time you say the same thing. And also Hamlet is such a mountain, you only ever get to the base camp of it, and then the beginning actor feels a bit beat.
It's brilliant. I love it. Onto the small screen, I mean, your work is so eclectic and diversified, but on the small screen, you had the opportunity to play those roles like Hawking, for instance. It was the first time he was portrayed on the small screen. How much does that teach you? And also, streamline characters, and you've done loads of those, like Bob, Turing, all these things. What do you enjoy most about the research behind embodying those?
Well, look, I mean, Alive or Dead, you're meeting these sort of icons, these extraordinary people with a kind of wealth of life, and there's so much that gives you to learn from and stretch into. It's daunting, of course, because especially if it's known IP, to put it in a sort of technical term, it is, people have expectations. It's very daunting when someone's alive, but it creates an incredible connection. Again, going back to that word, it is the old Ian Foster cliche now, it's used all the time in discussions of art, is only connect. It's what this is, it's what this festival is about, this is what your culture and our cultures are doing through a medium of connection. It's fantastic. And the same goes for playing someone like Stephen Hawking. I had a moment where I was sat opposite him, and it was terrifying. It was a glorified script editing meeting the Friday before we started shooting on the Monday. I'd never met him. Legally, I wasn't allowed to ring him up or ask him questions or email him. I suppose would have been the more easy way to do it. Because you can imagine the guy, he was dubious about it. He wasn't quite there with it. And Philip Martin, who directed it, came from a documentary background, which is part of the reason the BBC got the project made. He trusted Philip. And he had a good place in science, and there was a good conversation to be had there. But when I sat opposite him, as the person portraying him in a young, very vulnerable period of his life, when he's a healthy young man, and obviously did a Cambridge rather, and then first shows the signs of this condition, this thing affecting his body, and then he gets diagnosed in a really traumatic moment. There I am going, I was terrified. I mean, and also, how do you communicate with a man? There's that huge lag. Anything you say or ask, it takes a good half hour for him to respond. I'm afraid, obviously, it took him a good half hour to respond. But there was something that happened which transcended language, like the smile of a newborn baby or the Dalai Lama. It doesn't matter. There's something happened between me and the glint in his eye, and I just felt myself flash. I was so overwhelmed. And I asked a few basic questions. It was an awkward meeting. When I first came in, and he was sort of, all the kind of platitudes were hammering out of his machine, like, how was your journey? Isn't the weather weird? Where would you like to sit? That sort of idea in the voice. And yet in that moment, I just saw something that was a blessing. And I went out into the garden, I smoked a nose and we were rolling. I looked at him, I looked at the stars, and I thought, my God, what a job I have. How blessed am I? And you know, people like thank God for the wealth of letters. That was all about his communication with Theo, and it was a docudrama. You know, it was something that hadn't really been unearthed before. That he wouldn't have existed. His art would have probably been destroyed. Nothing that we now know of Van Gogh or value of him as an artist would have really existed if it wasn't for Theo, his brother, and this relationship, which these letters in an amazing exhibition of the Royal Academy in London held revealed. And this was a documentary drama around that relationship. I mean, you know, and to play that man through the span of his life from insanity to a curable insanity, the other tragedy, isn't it? You learn so much, you learn so much, and you also have to find communication or connection with people when they're not with you anymore. I mean, when I was playing Alan Turing, and this does happen with fictional characters as well, but when I played Alan Turing, it's the first time I really experienced it. The scene, I think it was in that where Joan goes to visit him after Bletchley Park, after the triumph of breaking the Enigma Code and everything that gave us in the war. You know, he was caught and prosecuted for his homosexuality, he was chemically castrated, and his best friend goes to see him in that moment, and he's just a shell of the person he was. And there was just a moment where I wasn't really acting, it wasn't really good acting. I called cut, I couldn't stop crying, it turned into weeping, and real keening, because I felt really connected to what he must have experienced. And I was outside of it, just going, I can't believe we did this to someone. I can't believe this is how we treated a hero, an extraordinary man, mind, an extraordinary man.
You believe the emotion because they're real.
Yes, but in a weird way, for acting it, I had no, it was almost, it was witnessing him rather than being him, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, we got some good stuff on camera whilst that was going on, but you know, it continued on, and it wasn't necessarily what was in the film, but it was, yeah, and then those moments do happen, where you really feel, you know, the pain. Louis Wayne, another character, an artist who had incredible mental health difficulties, fated in his life and completely forgotten about, left in obscurity in an insane asylum into old age until he was rediscovered and celebrated from everybody from H.G. Wells to the King at that time in his dotage, brought out of this sort of cocoon of silence and internal mental pain. And it was just a moment of just sitting with that as he was losing his mind. He uses the love of his wife, who stabilizes him, brilliantly played by Claire Foy, to cancer. Something akin to Andrew's character and that dilemma in We Live in Time. And I couldn't stop crying after the takes. It's a scene cross Atlantic, where he is starting to imagine the boat is sinking, he's drowning, he did this whole thing in the water tank. The water didn't draw him, it's just him shaking in the middle of the room, trying to wet himself, not knowing what's going on, where he is just crying out for his mummy and his dad. And it just, I couldn't stop once certain things open in understanding the empathy. It's very hard to pull back from that. So it happens with characters, it does also happen with fiction, but both of them are moving.
Sherlock, anyone know Sherlock? I mean, obviously, he'd been played before, but you as Benedict playing Sherlock, that was magic. Why do you think that?
It was a lot of things. It was Martin, it was a modern era take on it. It was Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss. I mean, they took something they were obsessive fanboys over with total respect, and they crafted a modern version of it with huge Easter eggs, hugely rewarding loyalty towards the original stories, but with a very witty modern twist. And I think it was also, you know, it was the dawn of Twitter, and this guy was on the internet, and John Watson was blogging, and I think there was a synchronicity that where television became, you know, it was pre-streaming, it was sort of a water cooler moment made digital, and I think that's why it went global. And had just been waiting for me at the right time as well. I just loved it. I loved being him. And again, the mental gym of it, he had to be in the digital space, the equivalent of a computer. He had to have AI speed so that he was speaking as fast as most people think, but very quickly. And that as an acting challenge, and also to somehow inhabit him, the quirks of his character, and how that fits in society now, whether he's Asperger's or autism, whatever it is, more pathologies of those kind of wonderful superpowers are. I think that spoke to a lot of people, that he had a superpower. He was socially incredibly awkward. I think also a lot of us take a great deal of pleasure out of people being vicariously rude or straight or directing.
Or filtered completely.
Yeah, no filters with Sherlock, and I think that's part of his appeal. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant mind. Yeah.
What was the first time you realized that you just go down to the shop without being noticed?
What's that, sorry?
The first time you noticed that you couldn't just, walk around the streets and not being noticed?
Although, it's a particular type of hair, which I don't normally have. I don't have dark hair, and I don't usually have it that long, but if I just stepped out of some, pre-production, it literally was that. I'd go to the hairdressers and come out, dyed and with the shake, and people would literally, traffic would stop and go, "Oh, Sherlock!" So, it was the first time. And I mean, when we were making it, Martin was already very famous from The Office, and countless films after that, which I this guy, all sorts, and people would sort of go, "Oh, that's not a creep," and he's like, "Yeah, it's me, I'm the face, sort of joke about it. And,
Such fun, he's a nice guy.
yeah, he's great, he's very funny. I think one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. And just, he's so inventive and brilliant, and he filled that role with so much nuance and care. He's a precision artist, he's technically really gifted, he's also a musician, and he's got jazz in there as well as every other kind of music. He's wonderful to work opposite, and like I said, I think that was very early on in my answer. That was a huge component of that chemistry. That unlike really worked.
The chemistry between the two and your chemistry with the character, it made magic. Let's talk about the big screen now. The eclectic career that you've had. You've had the touring roles and the Julian Assange roles, and then the big blockbuster movies. And then once you got to screen.
These are big soundbits, grand gestures. When they're really good, they carry something of the zeitgeist. They speak to us and our culture. They're kind of myths of now, and they are so much fun to do. And the wealth of talent that you're surrounded by is truly awe-inspiring and a little humbling and scary. When I first stepped onto the Avengers set, I was like,
those art departments.
I've done quite a lot of that alone. Yeah, you're quite right. I hate this phrase, it's less used now. Like the artist is stepping on set. No. The artists have been on set since this set was assembled, painted, decorated, filled with smoke, lit, camera on. We're just dressing actors. We're just one part of many levels of artistry. So yeah, that was daunting. You're right, the scale of it. But I'd already experienced a bit of the Charlie was extraordinary, realising of real worlds as well as the green screen stuff. Marvel do a lot of location, they do a lot of real set builds, there's a lot of tangible 360 stuff to work with, despite a lot of stuff where you go, I need to step outside because all I've seen is green all day or blue. But beyond that, it was just looking at Robert Downey Jr. How does he do it? It's extraordinary. And there is a way that he does it, and it's incredible. But also, to watching the Tom Holland was hot off the success of the first Spider-Man film. And they were just and of course they had those scenes in that film, so they had a thing, but it was magic. It was like, oh yeah, I've got to have fun. I can't just turn up with the collar and look like, well, it's Star says, when you can sell tickets to the circus or something, the amount of insults. I've got to come back with something. So there's a day, you know, early on, like he's just singing all these names, doesn't he? What do you talk about Liberace, all these things. I just went, maybe what do you do? What do you actually do? I went, I think mine is something like, protect your reality, douchebag. And the whole set went, ooh. And he was like, probably. It was great. So the best stuff, and those huge canvases, those things with a huge amount of responsibility and expectation of all these amazingly devoted fans, is to play it, have fun and be free. Keep it alive, keep it breath in it. You know, if you become very, it becomes stale and breathable, and with that character, you know, that's where I want to take it. That's why I want to keep taking it. At times it's hard, but that's what I find. Yeah.
What kind of spice did you want to put your own spice to Stephen Strange?
My own spice.
Cardamom?
What's that?
I'm joking.
Party.
Cardamom spice.
Yeah. I'm supposed to listen. I don't know. I mean, you can't help but bring yourself to a day's work. I mean, I love resolving. I love involving myself in something other. You know, that transformative thing, and those worlds that have kind of demanded that, like Bill in Power of the Dog. You know, that it's really, really satisfying to be other, to be honest. And for me, it's about. He's a very complex man. He's dicing with something that could destroy him and pretty much everything. And yet he's not a god. He's not been bitten by a radioactive spider. He hasn't a load of nanotech that is billions in selling arms, or his father's been sent out as well. He's a SWAT. He's an academic. He's just got a really fierce brain, but he is motivated by needing to control certain things at any cost. And that always comes at a cost. So I'm interested to see what those costs continue to be, you know, and how it wears on him, and how he needs to adapt to keep evolving and be what he needs to be in that universe, and how it affects him. There's a lot more to play with. It's very exciting. Of myself, I don't know. I don't dabble with gods too much. I mean, I guess I draw on stuff, but yeah, he's into very dangerous stuff. But I don't know. I suppose this is a very loose answer to your question, but maybe the idea of where my job sometimes puts me and what the cost of that is, you know. So maybe some of that, which is kind of private, I guess. But yeah, sorry. I'm not going to tell you wrong.
How much do you enjoy it when the camera's not there? Did you use your voice a lot? You've got this beautiful, distinctive voice. Obviously, you voice the Smaug, you voice the bridge, you do a lot of radio. Do you like it when the camera's not there and you can use your acting skills just by using your own voice?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I started at school before I was any good with a dictaphone, and I'd often have conversations with characters, and then I play the line, and I'd speak back to the lines just to amuse my friends at school. And impersonations of teachers, and sketches, and characters. So yeah, I'm always kind of I've got some kind of an ear for that. So yeah, I love it, and I think what's really important is it's never severed from the body and voice. It's always got to be connected, you know? And so yeah, it can travel from ear to ear, or from ear to ear, as long as they're connected. It's fantastic. One can lead the other.
I found out through my research, and I think that this is a local hero that you voiced a documentary on Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, we did, but I forgot I'd done that. Yeah.
But you know, it's the Saudi, but you know, the football fan, how did that come about?
Yeah, I did. I am a football fan. I can't remember how that one came about. I really can't. It's a long time ago. Yeah, no, I love football. I love football. We were fortunate enough to get a flight with a live match between Tottenham and Chelsea the weekend was playing. What a game. Just the drama that happens. I didn't grow up with the team. I'm a Gooner. I'm an Arsenal fan. And yeah, I didn't grow up with the team, so you know it's a loose association. It's really because I live in North London and I had a trust between them or Spurs. I chose Arsenal. Sort of Spurs, but yeah, I love it. I mean, it's such a theatre of dreams. It's so expansively dramatic, and I used to play a little bit at school. Particularly with my three boys were amazing. They were very, very keen on it. So if I can play more, I don't know how to them, but. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's just a wonderful spectator sport.
It is, absolutely. It makes people happy.
Yeah.
like movies.
I tell you what, as well, I've always been following the national team, despite only relatively recently, I guess, compared to most lifelong fans being an Arsenal fan. But I went to the Euro finals. I said, still, that first goal that went in, the ecstasy around that stadium, the near, excuse me, Italian fans, but the near universal ecstasy. It's just strange, it's all unified by one thing, with the ball in the net. It's kind of, I've never had an experience like it. It's unique. It is unique. It's hard to explain to people who aren't into it. It's such a communal high. It was amazing.
I'm sorry, we went to the Chelsea match. You got Oscar nominations for your roles in The Imitation Game and in Power of the Dog. How do you feel the award recognition helps you in your film choices? How do you feel it affects the film itself and your own career?
What do you mean, getting a nomination?
Yes, getting an award nomination.
Well, you have that Academy Award nominee that follows you around the title, which is, I suppose,
in the opening credits.
Yeah, which is it's very nice. For me, it's just about the quality of the work, and if it leads to more opportunities for great filmmakers because they've seen your work, because it's being vetted or talked about in the conversation every year that happens around this kind of time, then great. Other than that, I can take it or leave it, to be honest. It means a lot to be included, and I respect that, but the value for me is that it brings me into close contact with my collaborators and with the people whose shoulders I'm standing on or have stood on. A chance to thank them, to acknowledge them, and also to meet and watch the work of and celebrate the work of fellow artists, fellow actors, musicians, writers, directors, producers. It's about that sense of community, and especially Power of the Dog. I was so low place with the first one, I didn't know what was happening. I had fun there. I had a lot of fun. It's a fun time. And you have to, that's the only thing that you really have to take away from it. It's just like, enjoy yourself. It doesn't matter who wins, just have a good time and don't hate anyone. But the second one, that might sound like a little balloon. The second one, it was not long after COVID, I really got a kick out of all of us being together as a community to talk. Yeah, it's I'm sick of talking about this film. Look, A, it's Jane Campion. B, it's Savage's book, Power of the Dog. Incredible novel, one of the great American novels. And an amazing role to be asked to give, and the magic to leap between Jane's idea of me and me actually doing it. The faith and trust, but an amazing cast, and an amazing experience doing it, and we got shut down and lockdown, and there's a whole story around that, and the actual thing of making it work and happen, just from day to day, just making the film. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to be with you. It was a pleasure to talk to an audience. And then we did it over Zoom and hear us and make contact and hear your questions and be thankful for you turning up and being interested.
Being able to bring a +1 to the Oscars, which was not the case the year before, where you had to go by yourself for that, isn't it?
Was that, yeah.
It was an exciting time to have everybody back together and to see that film. And, I know as a producer, you champion women filmmakers working with Jane Campion at the time. She's just a trailblazer, this woman. She's just incredible.
She's the best. She's just amazing. She's a very powerful, brilliant, really down to earth, funny, delightful, familial, loving human being. And she's a great artist, but a great woman. Such a trailblazer. I mean, you think of when she was starting in the industry, there was so few female directors. She was out there. And in a country that had some great artists, but she was just fortunate enough, it felt like. And really relearning that in the celebration of her that year was one of the chief joys of that whole time. To get to celebrate her and give her speeches before she got Lifetime Achievement Awards, and for her to get the best Oscar adaptation. Yeah. And just to be around for that and to relearn what had made her the Jane Campion we all now know. Kind of phenomenal, really inspiring.
And you worked with amazing directors as well. I mean, Steven Spielberg, I'm a domestic worker today. The workforce. Sam Mendes, 1917, Steve McQueen, 12 Years a Slave, Martin Tilden, Joe Wright. Does every director help piece the puzzle of what is an actor?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're all cumulative experiences. And one point you mentioned is very particular. If you work with an author like Wes Anderson, you're
yes.
kind of, you're going, well, I know not to say Mr. Then it's suddenly aged, whatever I was, 46 or 5, I can't remember, but I had suddenly to go, okay, okay, here's a new way of working. 48 takes, walking through sets that are all going up like a piece of theatre, to changing costumes, just unbelievable amounts of words and movement and gesture, and just like all of it just is impact. And really extraordinary, unique experience. You never stop learning, and that's what I love. And it doesn't. I used to say about the kind of stills acquisition that I would, claim or try to involve myself in, whether it was going back into artistry or horse riding or a musical instrument or singing, whatever it meant. But really, you know your basic craft as well. It suddenly becomes new or difficult or alien and exciting. Because Steve McQueen, he already hunger, he already made Shane, director before he won his Oscar for the film I did with him. That was an amazing thing to be a part of, a really powerful story. And again, someone who's sort of extraordinary when you look at how he's got to where he's got and the power he has as a storyteller. And yet he's also very familiar, very provocative, and he genuinely, there's definitely a synchronicity between the way they work and the way they take actors and shake up the snow globe to make them comfortable, to make you comfortable, to give you fuel.
Not too much in your face in the case of Steve McQueen, I guess.
He's very, very supportive. But it's not my story to tell, but there were certain moments where he was doing things to get people into a space where they could do some of the unspeakable things they had to do in that film, with authenticity, with freedom, with the idea that they had no division or embarrassment about it. And that's a really amazing gift to be able to do that, freedom of inhibition. All you really need actually is a director. And the idea is to shift something 180 degrees to look at the problem or the way into it from a different angle. Technically, I think you can learn how to make beautiful pictures and obviously Jane was an artist before she became the director. Stephen was a video artist, and they both came from visual disciplines as a lot of directors do. But you can't really understand how to make people feel free to express themselves without fear, and how to change their thinking, which also requires a fearlessness. You become very precious sometimes, like, oh yeah, I got it. That's usually when you really don't, but you feel secure in your choice, and you put front foot forward in your hair. And then good directors will just go, no, we're going to make you think about it in a completely different way. If you open up doing that, then something happens. And hopefully in the edit, the best one is chosen, one of the choices you've given. Which is what I try to do every time. But if it's not happening with the directors, it's very rarely. I just go, look, I'm going to give you a lot of choices, and you're going to have a headache in the edit. But I'm